exceptional motion, honor and tributes of the House.
Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the following exceptional motion that following the presidential proclamation of 22nd of April 2022 regarding the passing on of His Excellency Emilio Moi Kibaki, Chief of the Golden Hearts, the third President of the Republic of Kenya, the tributes of this House be recorded in special honor of the late retired President's long uninterrupted service in this House, his selfless service to the Republic, exemplary achievements, accomplishments of the country, his role in shepherding Kenya into a new constitutional dispensation in 2010, and for his patriotism and role in promoting socio-economic growth and development of the Republic of Kenya and the East Africa region. Honorable Speaker, let me, on behalf of my family and the people of Kibaki, start by sending my deep, heartfelt condolences to the family and all the Kenyans on the passing on of our beloved hero, the late Honorable Moi Kibaki. Honorable Speaker, history is more than the path left by the past. It shapes the present and has immense potential to influence the future. And these are words that were said by the former Speaker of the House of Commons, John Barco, when he recounted the steps in history that the House had taken since the 10th century. Today, we have a singular honor, an opportunity to record the tributes of this august House in honor of a giant of history, His Excellency President Moi Kibaki. Honorable Speaker, in the words of President Obama, I wish to observe that it is hard to eulogize any man. It's hard to capture in words not just the facts and the dates that make life, but the essential truths of a person, the private joys, the sorrows, quiet moments, and the qualities that illuminate one's soul. How much harder to do so for a giant of history, whose legacy is not only our cherished constitutional democracy, but the many aspects that form our social and economic struggles as a nation, and some of which you have enumerated, and the others that are flowing from the public as they talk about the great man. Honorable Speaker, like other giants of history before him, Honorable Kibaki came from a very simple family as a last born of a humble peasant farmers, and he would, as expected, have spent the early childhood assisting his parents to carry out the normal family chores as a hands boy, and including ferrying tobacco from Othaya through the mountain Abadeas all the way to Naivasha and eventually to Donyunjeru when he was a young boy. But it did not deter him from rising to serve his country in the highest office in the land. And I don't want to go through his education, you've covered. But, Honorable Speaker, as I stand before this House to mourn and pay tribute to my political mentor, the late President, who is a great economist and a leader to which this country owes a great deal of gratitude. He served in various capacities and left commendable changes wherever he went. As you have mentioned, he started as assistant minister. Then he was appointed a full minister since 1969 to 1978, and then moved on to become a vice president. And during that time, Kenya saw unprecedented growth. I've read a few of his budget speeches, and which I have here, and members would want to share. The library has quite a good collection of that. And just looking at what was happening in the 1970s, I would like to quote what in the budget of 1970, what he said at that point. That given the shortfall in revenue available to the exchequer at the time, at the existing tax rates, and our recent heavy reliance on the banking system, I should have reduced the level of development spending in the 19 1976-1987 budget on financial matters was unmatched. Honorable Speaker, despite the political challenges our country faced at that point, President Kibaki always distinguished himself as a great servant, hell-bent to adopt and implement policies geared towards sustainable economic growth, ensuring the overall betterment of the lives of Kenyans. Personally, I knew him as a great friend, having met him about 28 or 30 odd years ago at a personal level. And I greatly enjoyed his company at the social level, in the golfing circles, and later on he was to become my mentor in 2002 when he encouraged me to get in politics, and immediately pulled me into his cabinet in 2003. I remember the date, the 3rd of January 2003, and I was to stay in the cabinet alongside him for 10 years. And I watched all these developments that you've articulated as they unfolded, as they were being planned. And I know he was a great gentleman, what you would call a gentleman par excellence, what leadership others would call a global level 5 leader, who is typified by exuding rare greatness, but with a huge sense of humility. And I think that's what he had. Honorable Speaker, after serving as leader of the opposition, he ascended to power at a time of despair and frustration and economic turmoil. And within the first 100 days, he implemented one of the most hailed legacies, especially on the free primary education, which increased the literacy levels to 72%. I'll skip quite a bit of some of the things that I've said in the interest of time. But, Honorable Speaker, I have reviewed a number of documents, including his first speech, and I've learned a number of the things. And allow me to quote, Honorable Speaker, one of the critical paragraphs in his speech at Uhuru Park when he came up to power. And for those who get a copy of that, that's paragraph 5. And he said, "You've asked me to lead this nation out of the present wilderness and malaise into the promised land. And I shall. I shall offer a responsive, transparent, and innovative leadership, and I'm willing to put everything I've got into this job because I regard it as a sacred duty." And we all know he put all his energy into serving Kenya for the 10 years. I've offered our competitors a hand of friendship. We have been through a long and sometimes bitter electioneering campaign. Now the elections are over, that there should be no bitterness. And he lived to that. Let us all unite in forgiveness, reconciliation, and hard work to rebuild Kenya. Nation building requires joint efforts of all Kenyans. Let us work for our common destiny and advance our common aspiration to bequeath a better country to our children. And over the 10 years, he lived to those words. Honorable Speaker, within the same, I think within paragraph 7, he articulated, and I quote, one of the things he said, "We want to bring back the culture of due process, accountability, and transparency in public office. The era of anything goes is gone forever, and government will no longer be run on the whims of individuals. The era of roadside policy declarations is gone, and my government's decisions will be guided by teamwork and consultation." And he went on to say, which is very important for us here today, that the authority of Parliament and the independence of the judiciary will be restored and enhanced as part of the democratic process and culture that we have undertaken to bring to foster. Honorable Speaker, when we look at the contents of the Constitution 2010 that brought the independence of Parliament, that no president who ever dissolved Parliament at his whims, is part of the promise that was made in Uhuru Park on that afternoon of 2002 in December when he took over. Honorable Speaker, I could go on and on, but we don't have the luxury of that time. But I want to say that the late president had an outstanding approach to leadership that all of us here should emulate to make Kenya a great country that Mzee left. And as we head to the elections, because probably God has called him to the high heavens as a result, as a signal to the Kenyans. And I would like to plead with the electorate as we talk of all the great things the late Mzee Kibaki did. I would like to ask our electorate to honor Mzee Kibaki by looking for his qualities and the characteristics in all those aspirants at all levels. And let's ask ourselves, do you see a Kibaki in your MCA? Do you see a Kibaki or aspects thereof in your member of parliament, in your senator, in your governor? Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I want the electorate to ask themselves whether they see a Kibaki or aspect thereof, those attributes that we are all talking of. And we are saying he did very great, so that we don't just look at, as we say traditionally, that you talk of a cow had milk after it has passed on. We want to look at what do our cows have milk even into the future when they are still living. And I would want to ask to challenge our electorate. Let's look for those qualities in our leaders as we go to those elections, and Kenya shall be a great country as he planned it, as he sowed the seeds, as created the frameworks for, and we all crave so that our children's children will bequeath to them a better country. Honorable Speaker, I really, in the interest of time and all the other members, I want to stop it there. I could go on forever. It touches me personally from our close relationship with him, and I have missed a friend, a mentor, and I believe wherever he is, I would hope that he's looking down upon me and the others that he mentored, and he will help us on our journey through this political thickness. Honorable Speaker, with those words, I beg to move.
Deputy Minority Whip, Honorable Eseli.